to order. And our first item would be any action that was taken in our closed session. And we have Gary Bell, our general counsel, who will go over actions taken.
Yes, there were two reportable actions from closed section. Item 5.5, approval of closed session minutes. The minutes for both meetings listed were approved by unanimous vote with all directors present. Second item is item 5.6. The recommended medical staff credentialing was approved by unanimous vote with all directors present. And that's it.
Did we not approve 5.1?
I think that was a reportable action.
We voted on it.
I think it was to accept the report, which was done.
Okay.
We've now effectively reported out. I don't think it's an issue either way, but that report
Thank
was
you.
accepted by the board.
Thank you. Item 9, any deletions or corrections to our posted agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 10, input from our audience. And this is input on anything that's not on our agenda. All of our agenda items will be open to comments after the item is presented. But do we have any public comments at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is input from our Employees Association. Do we have a representative from the Employees Association present? Well, hearing and seeing none, we'll go on to item 12, which is safety first, and our CEO, Harry Weiss, will present that.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Board of Directors. This evening for Safety First, and I think we have a brochure that we could potentially post for you to view, and we will make sure we've emailed it to each of you as well. But it's really Medication Take Back Day, and the main day for this is April 24, 2021 here in Truckee from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. What this really urges is a timely turning in of unneeded or expired medications for several reasons. One is that if we take medications and if they're flushed down the toilet or in the trash, they could end up in our water supplies directly or indirectly and potentially damage our environment. Also, if we're not timely disposing of over-the-counter or prescription drugs, it can be a temptation for teens, certainly with their potential drug use. And 7 of the 10 most commonly abused drugs by teenagers are prescription medications. And so they commonly get them from family and friends, from medicine cabinets, etc. It also can help young children to avoid accidental poisoning. Helps our seniors for misuse and mistakes on medications they don't need or that are expired. And your home could also be a place where if there is an addict, they might choose to check it out and empty your cabinets a little bit if they find something of interest there. And so it's a program that does go on an ongoing basis, but it's a special time on April 24 here in Truckee from 10 to 2 p.m. The convenient location is at our Gateway Shopping Center, which is the Safeway parking lot here at 11290 Donner Pass Road. We have several sponsors, but moreover, there are drug bins that are located at the Truckee Police Department, the Placer County Sheriff's Office, here in the Tahoe Station, and the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, and they're typically 9 to 5 or Monday through Thursday 8 to 1 and 2 to 5. And our sponsors of this program is the North Tahoe Public Utility District, Tahoe Forest Health System, Tahoe City Public Utility District, the Truckee Police Department, Placer County Sheriffs, and the Tahoe Truckee Future Without Drug Dependence. So it's a very important message to share for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Harry. Does anybody have any other comments about our medication take back day? I think it's a great safety first reminder to all of us.
Yeah, this is Art. I've got a couple of questions. Have we done this before, and how are we publicizing this?
We have done it before, as I recall, and there are numerous, I think, media releases by these various organizations as well that are sponsoring it. So I don't recall all the specific ways, but there are several ways that we're getting it out there.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's also a national event day that happens, because I know in Nevada, they're also posting where you can drop off meds that need to be disposed of. And I think the important thing when you're taking those meds to the site is that they're in a sealed plastic bag. They don't want you to bring the containers or any of that. And yes, we've had this, I think, almost every year that I can remember, at least 3 years that I remember taking things to. And it's a great time for all of us to go through our medicine cabinet. It's amazing how many things you keep pushing to the back and pushing to the back because you're not using them. So a great event that's going to happen in our community. So thanks, Harry, for bringing that up. Item 13, we have our Employee of the Month, and Alex McLennan, our HRO, our Chief HRO, will present that.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm honored to announce, and I will say Theresa is in the audience, but Theresa Martinez as our Employee of the Month. Theresa is a medical assistant in the second floor of the Cancer Center clinics over in the Women and Family Center. And I'm going to read a few things that her colleagues have to say about her. Theresa, known by most as TC, has been the anchor at the Tahoe Forest Women's Center. She joined the health system in November 2017, but has worked with this office since she was 18 years old. She is forward-thinking, always looking at how she can make our work more streamlined, and is so efficient. She is the epitome of a team player, always stepping up to help her colleagues. She advocates for high-quality care and for her fellow teammates. We are lucky to have her on our team. Theresa's been great. I know she has been a rock in that clinic, and so many people speak highly of her. So give it up for Theresa. And I don't know if Theresa's on the line, if she can, if Theresa, do you want to say anything?
Oh, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your meeting to announce that. It's greatly appreciated. I'm super happy to work for you guys and have had the opportunity of working with Tahoe Forest Women's Center for 18 and a half years now.
Awesome.
They're so wonderful, and everyone's been just wonderful and supportive of everything. And thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Theresa. You must have started when you were just a child. So thank you for spending all those years with us.
Thank you guys for making it a great place to work.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, then moving on to item 14, our Medical Staff Executive Committee is going to present their consent agenda. So Dr. Lane, turn on your mic.
You're muted. Sorry about that. Martina, do you have an agenda that you want to put up, or do you want me just to roll through it?
If you just want to roll through it, I don't have it readily accessible.
And we have it on our screens.
Okay,
so our own.
I'm just not sure I'm going to follow the same order you are, but we have new privilege forms. So general surgery, they just added multi-specialty clinics to their privilege form. Neurology has added telestroke services, and this will be part of as we transition to using Renown, and we're going to be using Renown for our teleneurology, which will be really helpful for the hospital because most of our sick stroke patients will be going to Renown. And if we're doing interventional radiology, it'll be very helpful to have them in the picture rather than a neurologist from an outlying area and who's not going to be getting the patient. Ophthalmology, Dr. Conway is adding a new service line in outpatient at the MSC, and she has a privilege form that was approved by for ophthalmology by the surgery committee on their last meeting earlier this month. Otolaryngology ENT has added MSC to their privilege forms. And then we had some general ones, including an update on our peer review indicators. And these are events that occur that trigger a peer review. And for instance, some of the examples are death or worsening conditions as a result of care, unplanned readmission, code blues. And then each department has their own specific criteria. So anesthesia, emergency medicine, each one has, if these events occur, then we trigger a peer review. And these have been updated and approved by MEC. And I'm not sure I have more than that. And I don't know, do you have on there the RNFA health guidelines? So we have approved RNFA as registered nurse first assist. So it'll be nurses that have special training that may work as a first assist in the OR. And this has been approved by MEC, but it'll go out to med staff for approval. And so it's an RN with additional certification to allow them to do that.
Do we have that on a packet, Dorothy?
It is not in the packet. It actually needs to go out to the entire active medical staff for a vote to approve that.
Okay.
Bylaws change before it then goes to the board for approval.
Okay, so that was just for informational, that last one, Dr.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes, it was. So I have all these policies. I'm not sure what's on. I don't have your agenda in front of me. Do you have, is there anything else on there that I did not touch on?
As far as I can see, you've done it all.
All right.
So does anybody on the board have any questions in regards to the changes in any of the privilege forms or the policy approvals that with their changes? I think it was great that the 2021 peer review indicators were posted, because I know when we've gone through peer review in the past, it's always been a question about, you know, what triggers it, how does it happen? And so now we've got some information with this policy and approval.
And you have this, so you can look, there's the general ones, but then each department has very specific ones that are, it's really not appropriate. I mean, each department needs to have very specific ones that are specific to what they're doing.
Sure. Any questions from the board?
Nope.
Do I have any?
So if you have no further questions, I may step off.
Okay. Then can I have a motion to accept the Medical Executive Committee consent agenda as presented?
So moved. This is Art.
Okay. Dale, did I see you raise your hand, or were you flying away the fit?
Muting here, unmuting as we speak. Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the Medical Executive Committee consent agenda. Martina?
Director McGarry,
Aye.
Director Shamblin,
Aye.
Director King,
Aye.
Director Brown. I believe you said aye. Oh, you're muted. I see you. Director Wong.
Aye. So the Medical Executive consent agenda is approved as presented. So thank you again, Dr. Lane, for your work, and also to Dorothy.
Thank you. I'm going to sign off. I've had a long day. I started work at 7 this morning, so.
All right, we'll see
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Item 15 is our consent calendar, and it usually has reports that are of routine or non-controversial nature. But anybody on the board or anybody in our audience who wants further clarification can pull any of those items. Currently, there are 5 items that are on the consent calendar. Does anybody want to pull any? Yeah, someone's got their, we hear background. So does anybody have anything they want to pull from the consent calendar? Anybody from our audience? Then can I have a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented?
As Michael, I move to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, so we have a motion. Was that a second or was that a cough? But could I have a second?
This is and ask if what, how much snow they get, what's their elevation.
Did you get one?
I'm sorry, I can't. There's somebody talking in the background.
Arts?
Okay, so Mary, you're seconding it?
Yes, I'm seconding it.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to accept the consent calendar as presented.
Director McGeary,
Aye.
Director Shamblin. Dale, where are you? Dale, did you approve that?
Aye, yep.
Director King,
Aye.
Director Brown,
Aye.
and Director Wall.
Aye.
And
Calendar
I
has
will
been-
go ahead and mute everybody except the board members and Grant from Proscania for the next presentation.
All right, thank you. So the consent calendar again has been approved as presented. We'll move on to item 16, and these are items just for discussion. And our first one is the Proscania Employee Engagement Survey. And we have Grant Goodall from Proscania, who's going to talk to us about our results. So we're excited to hear this.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair and the board. Thank you for the opportunity and really the privilege to talk with you this evening. I know your time is valuable, but as I heard earlier, it was great, Alex, to hear you mentioning for Theresa kind of being putting that kind of ovation in terms of really putting that focus back onto the employees. 18 years at the organization, that's fantastic. I know her voice is very likely going to be in the results that I'm going to share with you tonight. And so overall, and I said that I would be driving here, so tonight's agenda, we'll just look at a summary kind of overall for Tahoe's scores here, high and low performers in terms of overall engagement, how overall employee engagement has transitioned from the last time we engaged in an employee survey process in 2018, and then really where most of the work that I've helped to identify and working with Alex, working with Harry, a lot of the work this year is really around continuing to refine consistency in processes and thinking about engagement and working kind of from a bottom up in terms of department level processes moving forward. Just to give everyone an overview of exactly what we define engagement as here at Proscania and how we help organizations kind of frame that. Over time, employee and job satisfaction has really transformed into really understanding the emotional investment that employees have with the organizations for which they work. And at the end of the day at Proscania, we really are trying to understand how we can care for those caregivers in the organization to ultimately impact patients and patient experience. We're in the business of reducing suffering at all points that we can. And so overall, that is our outcome, how we can boost this engagement within organizations so that we can better deliver on that ultimate mission for organizations. And so our engagement metric looks not only at, are you satisfied with the work you're doing, but also, are you proud to work for the organization? Do you feel like that organization has a strong connection to the community for which it operates? And do you see yourself continuing to work at this organization, living and thriving and growing within your professional experience? And would you recommend this as a place to work as well as a place to receive care? Leading into this will be our main metrics that we see. What are those things that we're checking off, that we're really digging into and making sure that we are driving improvements around how employees perceive the overall organization and delivering promises, my manager, how well that leaders are being set up for success and how that's connecting to building relationships with their teams. And then employee domain at the bottom of this is really, do I see myself fitting in with the team that I work with? Sorry, Alex, you're raising your hand.
Grant, I just didn't know if you meant to be sharing your screen yet.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I'm so used to having my, thanks for jumping in there. There we go. That's probably looking like something now, huh?
Yeah.
Much better.
and please, I'll try to remember at the end. I did a Zoom call recently where I logged out before I stopped sharing my screen, and I think it froze in the meeting, and they had it shared the whole time. I apologize for that. So this is kind of the overall model leading towards high performance in an organization. The last piece is really the employee domain and trying to understand, are employees really connecting with each other on the team? We've got 2 metrics on here that I'll share that give an idea of where's the overall health for teams within our team index and our leader index. Okay. Overall, as a kind of a refresher in terms of how these surveys are conducted, we do see a snapshot in time. We conduct the survey at a period of time, and this was conducted at the end of January, the beginning of February here in 2021. 843 employees responded. That represented 86% of the total population of Tahoe at the time. This is really, really high level of engagement and participation in the survey process. We typically see somewhere around 75 to 76% over the past year. I'll use the reference of 2020. And so 86% is 10%, 10 points higher, per point basis higher than what we see in the national average. The overall engagement scores, and really any metric that we look at here on the screen, will be on a 5-point scale. We think of that typical Likert scale where a lower score is more dissatisfaction with responses to items, and the higher the score, the better, the more positive we're responding to it. Overall, a 4.43 is on average positive to highly positive responses around engagement. And in fact, if we look at a couple of metrics, and we kind of truncate some things here, so I'll explain the 0.34 below where we see on engagement versus national healthcare averages, showing all of the healthcare organizations within our database across the nation over the past year. Tahoe Forest Hospital employees are scoring significantly, statistically significantly higher in overall engagement by 0.34 points higher. The next metric down below, we'll see this versus 2018. The last time we conducted an engagement survey was in 2018. Overall engagement has increased, again, statistically significantly since 2018 within the organization by 0.11 points. If we would create a reference point, put everybody out on one big scale, and we'd say all of these 6,000 facilities that we survey, where would you rank out? Where's your place there? That puts Tahoe Hospital at 91st percentile, or at or above in total engagement, above 91% of other organizations within our database. Again, that was a lift from 2018. The next metric on the side there where we say resilience, this is something we're keenly aware of right now. And Tahoe is actually one of the pioneering organizations as we started to introduce this new concept of resilience or testing for resilience, and seeing how employees are dealing with the stress that they work with in the work life. How well are we positioning employees to recover and bounce back from adversity that's being introduced, the inherent stressors that are coming from providing care? And it's an early warning indicator for burnout. High scores overall in terms of providing that support for resilience for employees, significantly above the national healthcare average, and increased since 2018 as well. So building resilience over time. We break this into 2 components. You'll see activation and decompression. And this lets us get an understanding of, are these around decompression? I'll start with is, how well am I disconnecting from work? Am I able to balance work and life? Am I able to disconnect from email communications or thinking about the next thing on my task list while I'm supposed to be home recharging? Activation is all around, while we all deal with stress, am I letting that affect the day-to-day work? Or am I still operating with compassion? And am I using techniques for mindfulness to help me organize and compartmentalize things in ways that allow me to manage that stress and continue through my daily work life? In each of these cases, we see a little bit of difference in the metric. The most significant comparisons to the national average and versus 2018 were around providing more access and ways for employees to decompress. Those lifted and increased quite significantly. Activation was already at quite such a high level. It's really, this one is the refining in those behaviors that really connect to how we demonstrate service and care for patients and working through that stress. Overall, in the indexes below, just gives you an understanding. These are every single department in the organization gets a metric to say, how well are we functioning? How healthy is the team on identifying and removing obstacles to engagement? Things like communication, building relationships with the leader, things around just everyday operational pay, benefits. You know, I feel like I can balance work and life here. These are segmented into team index 1, 2, or 3. It's really performance levels. The far left with team index 1, this shows how many of our departments are really working on driving engagement. The gray bars to the far left of each of these columns is showing where the organization was in 2018. In 2018, 39% of departments were around team index of 1. That's increased to 65% this year. Team index of 2, kind of the middle level, has adjusted. That's been decreased. And team index 3 is really that red flag where we say, these departments are really struggling. How can we help to really operationalize the things that we can address to improve engagement for these departments? That's reduced from 20% of the organization down to 13%. The leader index gives insight into how well are leaders inviting feedback from their employees, how well they're building communication, and how well they're really developing their team. The more that we can move up into that high range shows that stronger relationships are being built, better leader effectiveness is being identified from employees of every department in the organization. And in fact, this year, 84% have rated their managers either high or moderately high in overall leader index. I'm going to take a quick pause. We went through quite a bit of data here. Just want to get a sense from the group if you guys had any questions about any of the metrics or wanted to make any comment at this time. I don't want to cut anybody off.
Okay, looks like Grant, you can move on.
Okay, very good. So all great scores. Just another way to look at it. We've seen this organization over time just continually increase in overall engagement. Between 2017, 2018, that big jump up to the 87th percentile. We have been on a journey upwards, while as we look at the light blue line on the bottom, we can see overall engagement in our database. This represents all other facilities, has been moving steadily down over time from that 2018 time period. 2020 was rough on some organizations, I can tell you, where folks weren't doubling down and really buckling up to make sure that communication was top of mind and really thinking about employee well-being. Really suffered quite a bit. And of course, financial and other hardships befell a lot of organizations. Overall engagement, breaking out into each piece. I won't go through any of these. We talked through quite a few metrics on the last page. I do want to point out, though, for every single section we have in here, again, pride in the organization, willingness to work for the organization in the upcoming years, and willingness to recommend the organization, all significantly above the national average. If we look in this column for unfavorable responses, very low percentage of the organization is responding dissatisfied in any portion of engagement here. And in 4 out of the 6, there was significant increase from 2018. Key drivers of engagement will show, I talked with Carrie, talked with Alex about these. These are kind of the things employees are saying what are connected to are really driving my perspective of engagement at the organization. As we think about all the things that the organization is focused on working to drive improvement, these are the ones we're saying, these are going to make the most impact if we continue to kind of remove some of these dissatisfiers, these unfavorable responses. We can continue to push forward and increase the engagement score overall for the organization. The two that I called out highly within this presentation was continuing to encourage teamwork from managers. It's already at a very high level, continuing to move up on that, and thinking about what are the ways that we're encouraging and promoting valuing individuals with different backgrounds at an individual contributor level, right? We're probably doing it overall very well as an organization, really promoting diversity and value of different backgrounds, but how can we kind of engage from the ground up from employees to continue this conversation? The highest performing items, pay and benefits, topped the list this year. These were the two highest compared to the national healthcare average in terms of overall score, and staffing as well. Although staffing levels, we still do see 14% of employees are dissatisfied with the staffing levels. It is in comparison to the rest of the nation that there is such a kind of shining light on this particular item. The greatest improvement, one thing to mention on that last page, there was not a single item on the survey this year that scored lower than our national average. All were above. The greatest improvements, confidence in senior management's leadership topped the list this year, and that different levels of the organization across different levels in the hierarchy are very effective. Job security also topped the list this year, which is one that was a challenge for many organizations in terms of changes and rotations and structures of the organization that went pretty well this year. Every single item on this list, if you remember the way we broke it out, are all around the organization. So those broader pictures about how I feel about the organization as a whole, very strong improvements in all these perspectives. The final metric that I'm going to pull up here is a segmentation of the data that we saw in the first slide in terms of where the levels of leader index as well as team index are in the organization right now. The higher the leader index, again, the more leaders are building relationships with their employees, investing back in employees, and employees are giving high marks in terms of their perception of leadership. And then the team index is on an overall, are we addressing those things that are detriments or stifling engagement for me at the organization? Creating this 9 box we see in the top right-hand corner, the least support for the organization, 63% of departments, 39 units in the organization, are really exemplars. This is where we're harvesting and sharing best practices, and we're really kind of tapping into all the great successes that are going on with the organization. The bottom left is still where there's a key focus. There's 6 departments that have some unique needs, and action plans will be put together for these particular departments to address those barriers to engagement to continue the move upwards and overall culture lift for the organization. So I'll leave this on the last page just with some overall highlight metrics. Overall engagement increase in the kind of health of all departments working on engagement, and strong leader scores, building those competencies and employees feeling strong connections to leaders. Communication across levels at a high scoring level in the organization. Employees feeling very positive about their total compensation in the organization. 2 focus areas for the organization moving forward. We're continuing kind of suggested to work on teamwork from managers and finding ways for employees to really build their focus around how they identify diversity on their own teams. So that's the review that I have for you all. Do you have any questions or comments before we close?
Anything from our board? Anything that strikes you, or you're?
I have a general question driven more by curiosity than any takeaway from this, but do you see a correlation between compensation and benefits and job satisfaction or engagement across the board?
So it is not the key indicator. So if they ask is what are the things that are really connected to, or we see drive engagement the most out of our metrics, I will say that a perception around leadership, competency of senior leadership and my direct leadership, as well as communication are stronger drivers in terms of overall engagement. But pay and benefits definitely are in there. Everything that we've looked at on the survey has a strong inner item validity or reliability in terms of their connection with one another. And so each explains some piece of that drive for engagement. But I would never say taking this one piece around total compensation and saying, if we remove the rest, this is going to really tell the whole story. That's not the case.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, for me, it was more of a general question. I've always been curious about the role of compensation benefits and employee satisfaction, and it doesn't seem to play out like you're saying. There's other things that are more important. Yeah,
they tend to be more important, but I will say they can't be removed, right? So it's one of those things that if it's absent in a certain way, you're always going to hit a specific ceiling, right? So it's in its absence, you will always hit a ceiling in terms of if it's neglected for too long. But it's not. I would never recommend being the #1 driver for anything.
Thank you.
Interesting. And I just want to add, if I could, I just want to thank you, Grant. It's been a pleasure working with you for the past couple of years. And, certainly it's helpful going through the results. And, I will say I had a little satisfying moment this year when Grant was first going through the results. And at the top of the page, it says summary. And then he clicked on the next tab, which says strengths. And I was great about that. But the next tab he clicked on was concerns. And we clicked on that, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And then eventually the page loaded blank. There were no concerns. Now, certainly we know we have some work to do in some departments and things like that, but it was definitely nice this year seeing that page came up blank for us overall, which was fun to see.
Alex, anecdotally, I have over the years bumped into 3 nurses who live in the area. And I asked them if they worked at Tahoe Forest, and all 3 of them said, "Are you kidding? Nobody ever quits there. I can't get a job there. I want a job there. I can't get a job there." And certainly the results of this survey confirm that too.
Yeah, it's funny, when Grant was making his comment about the 18 years, I was thinking 18 years, she's still a newbie here. I mean, we've got a lot of tenure here. People don't leave, but it's because of all the great work we do, and we are a great place to work. So
kudos to the management. Great job.
Absolutely.
And I think there have been lots of things put in place that have helped along the way as we've looked at the results. I think Town Hall has made a big difference where employees can really feel they can vocalize their concerns and not be judged or any repercussions from them. Even though we haven't had any true social events that kind of bring us together as a organization, we haven't had that, and yet people are very positive about the work at Tahoe Forest, despite COVID and all the PEE they have to put on throughout the year in order to take care of their patients. So again, just praise to our administration for their leadership, management for communicating and having it the communication going up and down. I've been on the board now for 5 years, and every time we get this Proscania report come back to us, it's just been so exciting to hear how much better we're doing as an organization. And I think the one thing that spoke so loudly to me that we were going to get a positive Proscania is when our Employees Association representative came and spoke at one of our meetings. I think, Alex, you brought her with you, and she spoke so highly of how things have turned around for the employees. So again, praise to all of those who have been working at improving the organization and the place to work. And thank you, Grant, for coming, or I don't know if you came, but for being at our meeting with us.
My pleasure.
Any other questions or comments for Grant or Alex or the team? Okay. Then our next item for discussion is the UC Davis Rural Center of Excellence Research Component Update. And our CEO, Harry Weiss, you're going to talk about our agreement with UC Davis and what is their expectation in terms of the kind of research and the research that is part of being a center of excellence for them.
Sure. Good evening, Chair and members of the board. I thought I would just focus a little bit on the research element of UC Davis. And we were approved roughly in July of 2009, nearly 12 years ago. We were their very first Rural Center of Excellence. I do believe that there's a second Rural Center of Excellence that's in Quincy, the Plumas District Hospital as well. But our organization, in prep for this Rural Center of Excellence, more than 12 years ago, began a research institute. And based on those thought discussions at that time, they were working on 4 unique products that are not generally available in the community. And our organization has really been supportive of those activities. And, you know, we had a discussion of that last month as well. So I thought I'd just have briefly a brief discussion here, in that we did strategically go down the path of actually setting up a research institute and trying to create medical products. Well, there's a whole wide variety of opportunities that are available to fully complete the research requirement. We could write research papers. We could do clinical trials, for example, of medications in our cancer program and chemotherapy. We do that. And so just that one area of the clinical trials that we do in our cancer program and medical oncology, where 10 to 15% of our patients have available the best new medications that either are available through UCLA or UC Davis, are available for potentially improved outcomes. That one dimension alone fully meets the research requirement. So we have been on this path where we have made a significant investment over 12 years to try to get 4 products to commercial viability. And that's a very admirable effort that we have undertaken. But I'm here to share with you, we don't have to go down that path. We can fully meet it with our clinical trials. But what we are doing beyond clinical trials, we've established a research task force. And what we're doing is we're looking for those new tried and true treatment philosophies or pieces of equipment that somebody else has spent the 10 million to 100 million or more to develop, that could provide great clinical relevance to our community. And so we expect to be able to bring additional products or philosophies to our patients very quickly that can really have an impact on the health status of our patients. And so we are, as an organization, deeply committed to research, but we do believe that there's a more efficient and more productive way going forward for the future. So I think our organization is going to take a thoughtful, careful turn and continue to look at new products or philosophies. And for example, one product that we have in orthopedics, it lessens a patient's need to use certain high strength pain relief, and it promotes additional bone growth after a significant orthopedic surgery. So that could be just another example of new technology that we're bringing for our patients to really help their health status. So again, we're taking a little bit of a strategic shift. It'll be more efficient, more cost effective, and probably much faster in terms of touching our patients with positive health engagement. So that's my brief report to share with you, that we can easily meet the research requirement through multiple methods.
Any comments from our board? So Harry, when we received, oh, sorry, who was that?
Oh, I was just saying, I like it. Yeah, I like the way you're thinking.
I agree. What was the thinking at the time? Does anybody remember why we went down that road in the first place?
I think that, we have a very bright team, and the brainstorming was, why not create these 4 unique products that were thought to be helpful in a rural setting. And I think one of the learning lessons for us and others out there is there's very formidable competition. There's significant purse strings out there. There's tremendous innovation in healthcare products. And even just to take one product from start to commercial viability, it could be 10 to 100 million or more. And so I don't know that real path was fully understood at the time. We respect the enthusiasm and the creativity, and there was a recognition that we had some great scientists available in our region as well, and why not try to tap some of their expertise. But I think we've learned a little bit, and we're going to continue to move forward with research that easily exceeds what UC Davis would require for a rural center of excellence.
Great. Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Harry.
And Harry, in the memorandum that we had in 2009 with them in regards to being a center of excellence, it was pretty broad in terms of what they described. And so, maybe at the time there was a loud voice that was asking to do something, and they go, oh, this would fall right under research. Unfortunately, it was research and development and not clinical research, as we were all thinking. But I also thought that it was a really loose memorandum, and it talked about becoming designated. But is there any follow-up that they require of us? I mean, do we have to give them reports annually, or,
We do report periodically, to them, and they've been comfortable, with what we've done. But for example, for us to think that we needed to actually create the chemotherapy drug that we use in clinical trials in cancer, that would be an enormous undertaking. So our correct approach is somebody else has invested the tens or hundreds of millions of dollars there, and we're getting to use those very modern treatments that somebody else has validated. And that's what we need to be doing with other products or treatment philosophies. So we've learned a little bit over time. The board has been generous, over the past few years as we have continued to invest. But I think we have made a decision that the path that we're on, we've probably invested as much as we are there. And I support that decision. And I just wanted you to know that nobody can say we're not committed to research, and nobody can say truthfully that we're not going to bring new treatment philosophies or equipment even faster now to our patients, because we are going to do it faster for our patients.
Harry, question. Was the recent vote to continue at least a modicum of support on a 3-2 margin, was that 3-2 margin conveyed to the Institute for Rural Health Research so they know how thin their support is becoming?
I did share that it was a close vote, and that this was our real demonstration that we are allowing that one product, really a Herculean opportunity, to still find success, even though it will require significant dollars to make it commercially viable. And they understand that is the end of these type of investments.
Okay.
and Harry, as we move on to having our own clinical research going on, will we have reports to the board on that like we do from the Institute?
We will. We have a multidisciplinary team, and we will periodically share with you new pieces of equipment, treatment philosophies, any kind of a device that's new and innovative that we have found that would be effective. So we're starting to accumulate that information, and we will have periodic reports.
Yeah, there's a number, again, here, I really like the way you're thinking about this. And it's getting dangerously close to sort of how I spend my days professionally. So I'm careful with what I say here, but Mary, to address your question, I've had friends that have started businesses, and yes, Harry had the $50 to $100 million, but they also sold the company for $1 billion. So there are significant returns that can, in theory, self-fund these efforts moving forward. I have to think that was probably part of the thinking, is if we do this ourselves, we realize those upsides. But beyond even research, what I'm seeing in the industry is a really strong drive for co-creation or collaboration. Again, not putting our dollars at risk, but maybe putting some of our resources through clinical research, but there's still equity investments that can be made or that we can take and participate in some of that upside if we co-create with others. So it's not just research or just development. There are ways to sort of play with both that I would encourage us to explore.
Thank you, Michael.
We really want to bring positive change in technology or services quickly to our community. And I do believe our improved strategy will do that.
Yeah, I like it.
Any other comments or questions from our audience? Okay, well, thank you, Harry, on giving us that information about the research component to the Center of Excellence designation. We'll move on to 16.3, the COVID-19 update. And Judy, are you going to start, or will Harry start on that?
I'll let Judy start this evening. She's done a great job leading it. And so, Judy, it's your time.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Director Wong and Board of Directors. Feels like every month I have less and less to say. I think that's good news. Mm-hmm. So just to let you know, today we have one positive patient in our hospital. Just a reminder, for the month of March, we had 0 COVID positive patients in the hospital. Since April 10th, I will let you know we've had anywhere from 1 to 2 in the hospital, and all have been able to be discharged home. Our symptomatic COVID testing rate rose a little this last week to 3.64% in Truckee. I think the week before that it was 1.5, but still significantly low from when we had the surge. I will say we continue to have our incident command team. We have made a decision, though, at this time. We had our last meeting this month, and unless things escalate, we don't believe we need to continue to have incident command meeting, but most certainly all of our executive team sits on that, and we do continue to speak to about COVID or vaccines at our administrative council meeting. So just a couple items to update you on, or if you recall, we have a respiratory illness clinic in Truckee. With the increase in vaccine rates and the leveling of COVID cases, we're going to begin to ramp down that respiratory illness clinic and its services. That's been in place for 13 months, and beginning the week of May 8th, we're actually going to consolidate the services there and limiting them to swab testing. We will continue to provide a hotline in place 7 days a week, and we'll actually leave one exam room there if we need to examine a positive COVID patients. So any patients that call our hotline, we will continue to swab those patients. Anybody who's positive, they will have an option to do a telehealth exam by a physician or an APP, or if need be, we have, as I said, one of those exam rooms that will be located at the respiratory illness clinic. And I just really want to thank the APPs and the physicians that have worked and the nurses that have worked in that clinic. They've done an amazing job for our community, and it's nice to see that that is all leveling and we're able to transition those patients where negative back to our clinics. So on to the vaccines. As you probably all are aware, we're at the 16 plus as the state of California at our Sierra College clinic site. Currently, we offer either the Pfizer or the Moderna We currently, as you know, the J&J is on hold. I believe tomorrow CMS is meeting on that to determine its clinical guidelines, but we have not been provided a J&J through this whole process, and just the Pfizer and the Moderna. So we continue to provide vaccine at Sierra College. We provide that Tuesday through Friday. We are doing 300 a day or 1,200 a week. But, you know, within our region, we are very lucky to have our local pharmacies also providing the vaccine. So both Safeway in Kings Beach and Safeway in Truckee, and then the CVS in Tahoe City and the CVS in Truckee. I happened to be able to visit the CVS a few weeks ago, and they are actually doing, I think, 175 a day, 7 days a week. So I assume that's the same in Tahoe City. So that's great news, and really fortunate for us since originally Truckee was not on the federal, Truckee CVS was not on the federal list to receive vaccines. So I don't know where the decision was that they would receive vaccines, and staff from Roseville actually came up and are staffing it. So thank you to CVS for staffing the CVS pharmacy in Truckee. It's very helpful to our community. We are on My Turn. The state of California now has Blue Shield overseeing the vaccine allotment program and are using the self-scheduling My Turn program. So that went live on our website this week, Tuesday, April 20th, for COVID appointments next week on the 26th and the 27th. So individuals have to sign up for My Turn, and then they can go in and they can schedule themselves. So the nice part about the My Turn is that not only do you schedule your first vaccine, but you also schedule your second vaccine at the same time. So we're continuing to work with the state on that program that has a few glitches here and there, but many times you start a new software, I believe that happens. Our vaccines are coming from the state Blue Shield program. They no longer come from the county, so we do get allotment every week. And they have been generous with our allotment, so we do appreciate the opportunity to have vaccines so we can vaccinate our community. I will say in June, we lose our Sierra College site. Thank you to Sierra College for all they've done. They are going to be opening, I believe, summer school and school, so we will be relocating to another location. We're looking at our Gateway building to provide some vaccinations there weekly. So, but it's been very fortunate for us to be able to use that. That's the my update. And again, just really thank you to our leadership and all of the staff in this organization as we went through this pandemic. It's been an amazing, and I actually think the Proscania survey results is a real reflection of the teamwork, the leadership, and all the staff working together to really meet the needs of this community. So thank you. Harry?
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you. No, I'm really proud of our team. And we're working really hard with a strategic goal to try to bring normalcy back to families and businesses and schools for the second half of this calendar year. And we're deeply committed to that. We will, work to help any community stakeholder in this. And I'm just really pleased. I know we're going to be involved with this for quite a while as a health system, but we'd love, the greatest report we want to be able to give you is that first we've reached 30 days with no new positive lab tests in our region, and then 60 days, and then 90 days. So that will be the greatest reports we can ever offer. And we're going to try to come close and rapidly to that, hopefully in the second half of the year. But we're not underestimating the vitality of this disease. So we're going to work hard on herd immunity.
Judy, as far as the test site that Placer County has in our Gateway building, they have to meet, don't they have to meet a certain number of tests in order to stay open? And are we seeing that many still getting tested at that center? Do you know?
Yeah, so currently they're, originally I think they started at 50 to 100. They got all the way up to 300, and now they're doing about 80 a day. So my understanding, they are still planning to stay open. I mean, I think they've asked to stay there for at least another 90 days. So it's great to have that partnership, and I appreciate Placer County using that location so it serves our whole community. So we have not been informed that they're going to close at this time.
Judy, a question for you. We hear in the news that there's a possibility, maybe even a likelihood, that we'll have to have a booster shot at some point down the road here. Is there any discussion going on and with you, or is that too far ahead?
Well, so I don't know if we're going to do a booster, but I will tell you we had that conversation today. What if we have a booster? And we were discussing a plan for if we have to have a booster. We also were discussing a future plan, like, you know, we anticipate that we wouldn't need necessarily a vaccine clinic like we have today in the future, but how would that look? Mm-hmm. You know, would we use our local pharmacy besides the other pharmacies? Would we be able to do some administration within our physicians' offices? So we actually talked about that today, planning ahead of what it might look like.
Okay.
Any other comments for the COVID update? And Judy and Harry?
Well, yeah, I'd like to make a comment, and that's that we've heard a lot about leadership and the importance of leadership and all that we do. And I just want to once again thank Judy for all of her work, and you know, that she's certainly been able to leverage a lot of good people, but it took somebody at the top. So thank you, Judy.
Thank you for that. You know, again, it takes a village to do this pandemic. So, and thank you to also Megan Shirley and Jason Gertier, who really helped with that vaccine clinic, and the Rick and all of the executive team. So thank you.
Yep, it took a village, and we had them.
Yeah.
Okay. No further questions, then we're going to move on the agenda. We didn't pull any items. Committee board reports. I think Finance Committee met this month. True or false?
Yes. Good evening. Yes, last Tuesday, the Finance Committee, consisting of Mary Brown and me, met with Crystal and Harry and Vicky, primarily to discuss our progress on getting a better control of accounts receivable. While we're not there yet, where we'd like to be anyway, progress has been consistent, and the trend line is definitely positive. So good news on that front. We also reviewed in detail the March financials, which you've all had in your agenda packet, and I assume you've looked them over. My God, what a month. Well above budget, with gross revenue exceeding $42 million. Really fabulous month. And lastly, we received a report that we will have a more timely budget presentation this year. Art, I'm sure you'll be pleased. Yeah, right. Yeah, we won't have to be continually correcting with actuals. We will have a prediction. So all good news from the Finance Committee.
Well, thank you so much, Dale. Any other committee reports?
Yeah, quick update on the Hospital Foundation that met this month. I think the couple of things worth sharing out. Well, just standard sort of meeting stuff, presentation from the hospital master plan, which was well received and gave the foundation something to think about of future fundraising efforts specifically towards that master plan. Fiscal year 21 fundraising to date, $460,000. I think one of the most exciting things, and we've talked about that even with this meeting, the next foundation meeting might actually be in person, which everyone was excited about. They're framing a donor thank you event for September. And I think most importantly for everyone to know and share out, they currently have a $15,000 matching gift campaign going, sort of affiliated with the Best of Tahoe Chefs, which is not going to happen. But in place of that, there's a matching gift program going on right now. So anyone that makes a donation, that'll be matched up to $15,000. So worth getting the word out on that.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Michael. Okay, if there's no further board committee reports, we'll move on to any board member reports.
I have a request, if that is appropriate right now.
Depends on what the request is, so you better
Yeah,
make it.
go for it, Mary.
They make it, right? So, just sort of building on what we heard once again from Proscania and the whole concept of caring for our caregivers. I'm sure most everybody saw the Washington Post Kaiser Family Foundation report that just came out that said 3 in 10 healthcare workers say they're considering leaving their profession. And I just think it would probably behoove us sometime in the near future to hear from the Joy in Medicine Committee. I know that's something that we have talked about, hearing about, but I think this is probably a unique time to do that now that COVID is sort of moving to the back burner a little bit, and be important to hear how everybody's doing.
So if Martina could put that on our rolling agenda, and that we might be able to get some.
Yes, Director Brown, we currently have that scheduled for, it looks like your July board education. It looks like a combination of Joy of Medicine to include physician burnout.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, I have a report to give, and I was invited to a meeting that was a group of members of public agencies, and it was an exploratory group looking at if we could combine our efforts in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And it's a goal of the state and federally also a goal to reduce emissions by 2030 to what the levels were in, I think, 2009. And there have been goals set every year by the government, and we haven't met them, and they still want to work on them. And the group felt that if we could just join our work effort, that we might be able to do something regionally to help reduce those emissions. There was lots of discussion, and it really was just free flowing. But now the group has been charged with the responsibility to put together a structure with membership, what the purpose, what the goals will be, and come up with some possible strategies that we as a region can work on together, as well as some really scalable solutions, because certainly things are going to be expensive to do, and how much finance are we going to put into it as in relation to what kind of a benefit we're going to get out of it. So again, it's just an exploratory committee that's come together, and as I hear more about it, I'll keep the board informed of it. We did have, I think, at least 2 meetings. In our most recent meeting, Ted Owens joined us. So Ted, if you want to give your perspective of what you thought about what the goals are, what was happening with that group, please share those.
Chair Wong, you really encapsulated it perfectly. This is a group of folks that are very enthusiastic about this particular effort. What they really need to do is determine who they're going to be, what their structure is going to be. They were already talking about making approach to your board, which would be inappropriate this time when they haven't determined what their goal is, their purpose, their deliverables, or their structure. So I think that they will go back and we'll work with them, of course, in developing those items. And we'll be hearing more, as Alice pointed out, in the future. This does all relate back to a resolution that the town passed 3 years ago on meeting some greenhouse gas emissions standards, as well as renewable energy goals. They also realized that all of the special districts have to participate in some level with respect to that. They don't control us, you're our board. And so they need to be respectful of that. We don't disagree with what they're trying to do. Absolutely. And it was a good meeting. And Alice, I think you covered everything just perfectly. More to come.
How many groups participating?
I think there might, go ahead. You probably know more of them. I thought there were at least 5 or 6 public agencies, which include special districts like ourselves, but certainly the PUD, the school district,
Airport.
the airport. Yeah, the airport was a mover and shaker in it. Kings Beach, PUD. They really want to get representation from Placer County and Tahoe City, but I guess there was a conflict in meetings. But they want to really look at it regionally, not just special districts. And the one thing that they did recognize is that the hospital is very regulated. And when they were looking at renewable energy, that we had to really remind them about that. And it seems that most of them knew that we have to have reliable energy so that we can take care of patients. So again, you'll hear more about that, and we'll be able to see if and how we can support the activities. Any other comments to end our meeting? If
I
not,
think I'll be the first one on the electric plane. The battery powered airplane.
exactly.
I'll be last in line.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
well
tickets
then,
are free.
since we aren't going to be looking at those too soon, I'm going to close our meeting at this time. So thank you all for your participation and your comments. And Gary, thank you again for sitting in for David. Please give him our regards. And on that
Good
note,
meeting. Good meeting.
good night.
Good
Good night. Thank you.